A Tennessee community is shocked when a beloved elderly woman vanishes. As investigators search, the mystery of her disappearance deepens. The truth begins to emerge, but slowly and in unexpected directions. As police and the FBI try to help a troubled small town find their dear friend.
In 1992, a woman disappeared from her Memphis home. When the ransom went uncollected, the FBI suspected a desperate amateur and feared the worst. I'm Jim Kallstrom, former head of the FBI's New York office. As the search for the woman progressed, investigators uncovered a web of lies and false accusations designed to hide the real perpetrator.
Memphis, Tennessee. On August 7th, 1992, 25 miles outside the city in the small town of Eads, successful land developer Alan Roberts arrived home from work. As usual, his wife's car was in the driveway, but he was surprised to find the mail there.
Doe?
His wife, Doe Roberts, usually left a note when she went out, but there was none.
Doe?
In the kitchen, Alan spotted Doe's asthma medication on the counter. She always took the inhaler when she went out. He called their closest friends nearby.
Bill? Yeah, Bill, this is Alan. Have you seen Doe today? Has she been over there?
No one he spoke to had heard from Doe.
Still not here. I'm a little bit worried, okay? I'll tell you what, I'm going to go out and look around the property for her. You do me a favor, call around and see if you can find her, okay? Hello?
Roberts worried she might have had an asthma attack while working in the garden. He searched the grounds of their farm. No sign of Doe.
Doe? Doe?
He was about to call the police when his telephone rang.
Hello, Doe?
It was a man speaking with an Asian accent.
You have Doe? What do you mean you have Doe? What do you want?
The caller demanded a $100,000 ransom for Doe's safe return.
Not a problem. I can take care of it. It'll take me a little time. You just let me know what you want me to do, and I'll do it, okay?
But he didn't explain where to take the money.
Where do you want me to take it?
Before he hung up.
Hello?
Stunned, Alan immediately called the Shelby County Sheriff's Department and told them about his wife's disappearance and the ransom call he received. A team of deputies and sheriff's inspectors responded to the house. Roberts told them he did not recognize the voice of the caller and did not know anyone who would want to harm Doe.
I came back home then about 7:30, 8 o'clock.
As the interview continued, agents from the FBI's Memphis field office arrived. Eads is about 30 miles from both the Arkansas and Mississippi borders. If someone took Doe across state lines, the FBI would take the lead, since transporting a victim state to state is a federal crime. Roberts explained he last saw his wife that morning.
So you're planning on working in the
They had
garden
eaten
today?
breakfast together, as they had every morning for 43 years.
Yes, I am. I hope it's not too hot to work.
At 10, Alan left to meet a prospective out-of-town buyer for a property he was developing.
See you later.
All right, have a good day.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye.
The buyer, a man named Sam Wagner, had called the day before, making an appointment to see the property at 10:30 that morning.
Morning, Todd.
Robert said he waited for over an hour, but Sam Wagner never showed.
Seemed like
He spent the rest of the afternoon laying sod at another of his development properties.
Sure, yeah. You want to? Okay, we're coming this way.
The investigators needed to check the house for evidence. Robert showed them Doe's asthma inhaler and said if she suffered a serious attack without it, she could die. They needed to find her immediately. Looking for signs of forced entry, deputies checked doors and windows. Nothing appeared suspicious.
Is it locked?
Knowing that people sometimes run off voluntarily, faking abductions to cover themselves, deputies checked Doe's bedroom. Her suitcases and all of her clothing were still there, as were her valuables. It didn't seem like she left on her own. If someone had abducted her, one clue suggested it happened outside, according to FBI Special Agent Joanne Overall.
Alan Roberts located mail halfway into the garage, and it was not taken into the house. He suspected that his wife had gone to the mailbox and never made it back into the house, and she had laid the mail down at that point.
Beginning at the driveway, deputies formed search lines, fanning out in a grid pattern to scour the 150-acre farm for any sign of the 65-year-old woman or what happened to her. Despite the efforts of multiple search teams, they found nothing. The best chance for a new lead would be additional ransom calls.
Got this hooked up. When he called,
We began monitoring Alan Roberts' phone right after the kidnapping. With his consent, we placed a recorder on his phone should he get a call from the kidnapper.
Recording when the phone rings.
They also installed tracing equipment.
Leave it down the whole time you're talking. When you finish, push the
If the man with the Asian accent called again, the FBI would be ready. Later that night, the phone rang.
Hello? Yes?
It was coming from a nearby payphone.
No, just don't hurt her. I'll do whatever you want.
Deputies headed toward the source of the call.
Okay,
It sounded like the same man who called earlier.
okay.
He
sure,
said
okay.
Doe was safe, for now, and he knew law enforcement was listening. Robert said the caller ordered him to remove the tape of their conversation and crush it in the driveway.
He wants me to take it outside and smash it. He said he's gonna watch
They
it.
quickly switched it with a blank tape.
All right, go out there and crush it, and I'll watch it.
Oh, okay.
At that time, no surveillance officers were outside. When Shelby County deputies arrived at the payphone, it was clear. Whoever made the call was gone. By daybreak, investigators expanded their search into the Eads community, asking friends and neighbors when they last saw Doe and if they noticed anything unusual on the day of her disappearance.
Doe and Alan Roberts.
Yeah, sure. They live right over there.
No one recalled seeing or hearing from her that day.
Yes, sir?
One neighbor told investigators that at church that week, there seemed to be tension between Doe and Alan, but no solid clues emerged. Word of the kidnapping spread, and news stations picked up the story. Joe Birch of WMC-TV in Memphis reported on the small community's reaction to Doe's disappearance.
A lot of people felt it must have been someone from the outside who committed this crime, because these people worshiped together, they went to square dances together, they spent a lot of their time together, and their focus was their little community and staying away from downtown Memphis and all the danger that might be here. So I think the people in the Eads community felt like an outsider probably committed this crime.
But investigators wondered how, in a place like Eads, a stranger wasn't noticed. As the investigation's first full day drew to a close, Special Agent Overall's concern grew. The 24 hours immediately following a kidnapping are critical. As more time passes, the chances of finding the victim alive diminish rapidly. On the second day, community members gathered to show their support and offer prayers for Doe's safe return. While the town of Eads prayed, investigators turned their attention to the most likely suspect.
In a case like this, we always look at the family members and relatives, people that are closest to the victim first, and then work the circle outwards.
They needed to start with the husband, Alan Roberts. It was possible he had harmed Doe, then used an accomplice to make the ransom calls. It is always difficult when family members realize they are suspects. Authorities had to ask the worried husband to take a polygraph test. It was an unexpected request, but Alan agreed. A polygraph measures a subject's physiological reactions while answering questions. The subject reviews all of the questions before the test, so there are no surprises. Though commonly called a lie detector test, a polygraph does not actually detect lies. It only detects whether the subject is exhibiting the characteristics most people exhibit when lying: spikes in heart rate, perspiration, blood pressure, and respiration.
Are you convinced that I will only ask you questions that we've gone over before?
While polygraph results are rarely admissible in court, many investigators find they point them in the right direction.
Is your first name Alan?
The examiner asked Roberts questions unrelated to the case to establish a baseline for truthful responses. Then he asked questions about his relationship with Doe and the events of the day she disappeared.
Did you kill Doe Roberts?
The examiner then interpreted the graphic output to determine if Roberts appeared to be deceptive on the questions about the case.
All right.
In his opinion, Alan Roberts answered all of the questions truthfully. Alan was sure this was the end of it. But agents knew that test results were not always accurate. They could not eliminate him yet. To check Roberts' story, the FBI wanted to find Sam Wagner, the man he allegedly went to meet on the morning of Doe's abduction.
We thought Sam Wagner may have come into this area, and because of their financial backings and holdings, that he may have kidnapped Doe Roberts for the money that they had, because they had a substantial amount of money.
Agents checked FBI databases and nationwide DMV records, searching for anyone named Sam Wagner. In several states, FBI agents interviewed men of that name, but eliminated each as a suspect.
Alan Roberts' story became more suspicious when Sam Wagner became an unknown individual that we couldn't locate, and it became more apparent to us that Alan Roberts could possibly be behind the kidnapping.
Looks like he checks out. I don't think he's going to take
If Alan did do something to his wife, Perhaps the couple's phone records and banking statements would reveal a clue.
There's nothing unusual about any of the phone calls.
Yet investigators uncovered only evidence of a normal life spent in a small town, with no sign of contact with anyone suspicious, and no record of Doe spending money after August 7th. No leads were panning out. Eventually, they came to believe Doe Roberts was dead.
After approximately 2 to 3 weeks of being unable to locate the victim, it was more than likely going to end up being a homicide. I requested through my supervisor that we bring in Shelby County Sheriff's Department into the investigation to make it a joint investigation.
If it were a murder, it would be prosecuted in state court. The team returned to the Roberts house.
The second search of Alan Roberts' property was done more in a forensic frame of mind, and we were looking for blood spatterings in the house as well as in the barn.
Again, Roberts cooperated. He would do anything. Forensics technicians from the FBI and the Sheriff's Department processed the buildings, looking for any evidence of a murder, cleanup, or disposal of a body. They also gathered hairs and carpet fibers from Alan's truck to compare to any evidence recovered later. The painstaking search lasted 2 full days. Alan Roberts grew more frustrated that law enforcement had to devote so much time to him as a suspect. He was wearing down, and the real kidnapper was out there, somewhere. In 1992, the Shelby County Sheriff's Department and the Memphis FBI searched Alan Roberts' farm and its buildings for any sign of his wife's possible murder. Roberts had passed a polygraph, and now none of the items on his property tested positive for blood. Yet no other suspects emerged, and investigators had developed circumstantial evidence that implicated Roberts. Although several witnesses had seen Roberts that day, his confirmed alibi only accounted for about 5 hours. Authorities knew that left plenty of time to get rid of a body. Also, some members of the Eads community gave statements claiming Alan Roberts had acted in a suspicious manner following Doe's disappearance, according to Special Agent Joanne Overall.
People within the community felt he did not openly grieve for the loss of his wife. He was socializing shortly after her kidnapping, that both him and his wife were members of a square dancing group, and within a couple of weeks, Alan was back at the square dancing group with various partners.
News anchor Joe Birch observed Roberts' lack of emotion during media coverage.
When somebody's wife disappears, you'd expect to see a level of emotion, and we just didn't see it from Alan Roberts. He was just kind of calm, cool, and collected, and very direct, and there wasn't a lot of teary-eyed, emotional appeals that we see a lot in kidnapping cases.
Investigators kept watching Roberts as he tried to carry on with his life, struggling with the frustration of not knowing where his wife was and being the only suspect in her disappearance. Yet they saw nothing that led them to Doe Roberts. In September, the man with the Asian accent resurfaced, now saying Alan was involved.
Hello? The kidnapper began calling people in the Eads community, stating that Doe Roberts was still alive. Many of the phone calls indicated Alan was part of the scheme to kidnap his wife. It was extremely frustrating because he never gave specific points to drop money.
Several of the people who talked to the kidnapper had caller IDs on their phones, So agents traced the calls to phone booths on a well-traveled road.
We would go to the phone booths immediately, and of course, the individual who was making the phone call was already gone. Other people had already used the phone. We would check the phones for possible fingerprints, and there was just never any evidence to tie an individual to that phone.
Okay. Here?
Each of the calls were made within a few miles of the Roberts house, a significant risk in a small community buzzing about the case. This boldness suggested that the caller was an insider, familiar enough to be inconspicuous in public, and that he considered himself beyond the reach of investigators. Desperate for something solid, Alan Roberts took things into his own hands, offering a reward for Doe's safe return, and announcing he disconnected the FBI's recording and tracing equipment from his phone so the kidnapper could call freely. On October 8, 1992, 2 months after Doe disappeared, the kidnapper called Alan Roberts again.
Is she okay?
He told him to drive to a payphone at a country store a mile away. Now. Roberts hurried to the store. Once again, he was on his own, with no corroborating witness to prove what was happening. The phone was already ringing when he arrived. He hoped, finally, this would be his chance to get his wife back.
Hello?
2 months after someone abducted 65-year-old Doe Roberts, the kidnapper ordered her husband, Alan Roberts, to a payphone.
Hello? Hello?
The man with the Asian accent said Doe was alive and still with him.
That's my wife's birthday.
He asked Roberts for the name of an intermediary, someone Alan trusted that the kidnapper could contact.
Somebody at the church? What do you mean, somebody at the church?
Roberts suggested Charles Lord, a leading church member and friend of the family. The caller said he would be in touch about where to bring the ransom money.
Can I talk to Doe? Please, let me talk to Doe. What? Hello?
Then he hung up.
Well, they've been good neighbors.
Charles Lord, the man Roberts picked to be his intermediary, was a civil servant and treasurer of the local church. He made a public appeal to the kidnapper on Alan Roberts' behalf, asking the man to call him and finally give specific instructions for a ransom drop.
Call my number, and I'll line up how to get.
They all wanted to get Doe back.
There you go.
More calls from the kidnapper came to Charles Lord and others in the community, but still no details for an exchange. In November 1992, Charles Lord called investigators to his home. Special Agent Joanne Overall hoped they finally had a direct link to the kidnapper.
Charles Lord stated that late in the evening, he heard a car out on his cove. He walked down to the mailbox, and there was a letter placed in his mailbox, which was a kidnapping ransom letter.
Investigators were glad to have physical evidence. Fingerprints, hairs of fibers on the letter might provide a link to the kidnapper. But by the time they got to it, they found the evidence tainted.
Charles Lord took this letter and showed it to several people before we were called in and obtained the letter. So there was quite a few fingerprints on the letter before we got it.
Lab examiners checked all of the prints, determining they belonged to Lord and the people he let handle the letter. Nothing to lead them to the kidnapper. The message was no help either. The ransom had been lowered, but still, no instructions for a drop. It seemed the kidnapper was playing games with them. In case he contacted Lord again, agents set a trap.
our office set up surveillance on his mailbox using a hidden camera, which was literally placed in a birdhouse close to the mailbox.
If the kidnapper dropped off another note, they'd have him on tape. Agents also installed wiretap and recording devices on Lord's telephone.
Basically what you do every time the phone, you just hit the play button.
They still had no real evidence against Alan Roberts. But a new suspect was developing.
Yes, sir. Come on in.
Charles Lord began taking an active role in the investigation, often stopping by the sheriff's office to check on their progress.
The Roberts, Doe Roberts. Yes, sir.
The deputies became suspicious. He seemed too interested. Their suspicion deepened because of the peculiar nature of the phone calls he claimed he got from the kidnapper.
Charles Lord stated he received several phone calls from the kidnapper. He did say that he talked with Doe Roberts, which was unusual because none of the other callers talked with Doe Roberts.
Appreciate it.
But agents never got tapes of the calls.
But every time he received a telephone call, it appeared that our equipment didn't work.
Over the next week, Lord reported another ransom letter and one of Doe's scarves placed in his mailbox. Agents recovered no evidence from the items, but hoped their camera captured images of the kidnapper. They had plenty of the regular mail carrier. But when the tape got to where the kidnapper should appear, it went blank.
When the equipment that was placed at Charles Lord's residence continued to fail, I just thought we had poor equipment. And eventually, it became apparent that somebody was tampering with it.
Agents suspected the interference came from Charles Lord. Then the victim's husband, Alan Roberts, reported a strange encounter with Lord. He said the night before, at the Eads Community Center, Lord summoned him to a private meeting. Alan was surprised when his friend offered to help get Doe back for a price.
Alan Roberts told me that Charles Lord had advised that he had underworld contacts and that there was information available if Charles could get some money to pay for it. Also, Alan advised at that time that Charles Lord was wearing a gun.
It was clear Lord was somehow involved. But investigators needed more than suspicion. They needed evidence. On March 4th, 1993, 7 months after Doe disappeared, there was another twist in the case. Memphis news anchor Joe Birch received a call at his office.
I've never recorded a telephone conversation before, but I decided that I would record this conversation. The call set off a trigger in my mind that this could be the same individual who's been making the anonymous calls in the Doe Roberts case, and I tried to get the man to stay on the line for as long as he would stay.
As Birch spoke to the man with the Asian accent, he tried to elicit details as to who the caller was and what happened to Doe. When Birch tried to set up a ransom drop, the caller hung up.
Hello? Hello? I took the tape directly into my boss's office. We immediately called the FBI and the Shelby County Sheriff's Department.
What can you tell us about Doe Roberts?
Investigators agreed to WMC-TV airing the tape, hoping it might flush the kidnapper out. It worked. The kidnapper called back. He was angry they aired the tape and demanded no more coverage. But this time, Joe Birch got him to do what no one else had.
Where is Joe Roberts?
Arrange a ransom drop. Agents and sheriff's inspectors staked out the drop location, ready to grab the caller who had eluded them for so long.
Is that her?
That's her.
You could be a positive.
Yeah.
As instructed, a reporter from WMC-TV drove to the spot with $80,000 in cash.
It's her, but I don't see anybody else. Do you see anybody else?
Everyone waited, hoping.
Sit tight. Sit tight. We may have somebody else. They may be waiting. Contact. We are
But the
present.
kidnapper never showed.
She's leaving. Okay.
It didn't happen.
One more disappointment in a frustrating investigation.
1409, be advised, subject has just left. No contact. Show us going ahead and clearing the scene.
Other deputies observed Charles Lord was home the entire time. Weeks passed with no movement on the case. Then, in June 1993, the kidnapper arranged another drop. He called two of Doe's nephews and told them to bring the ransom money to a local motel. Soon, the elusive kidnapper finally would surface. In June 1993, investigators working the Doe Roberts kidnapping staked out an Eads, Tennessee motel. Special Agent Joanne Overall was part of the surveillance.
Doe Roberts' nephews received a call from the kidnapper, and they tried to make an arranged ransom drop. They were told to go to a motel room, which they did, but they also called the FBI. They were waiting to get a phone call or meet with somebody.
Other surveillance deputies had been unable to find suspect Charles Lord that night. As the team at the motel watched, a man approached. It was Lord. He went to the room the nephews had rented.
Charles Lord told the nephews of Doe Roberts that he had received a call from the kidnapper and that he was to show up there and get the money, and he would receive a phone call as to where to take the money.
But the nephews wouldn't give him the cash. They said they wanted to deal with the kidnapper directly. Investigators were sure that was exactly who they were dealing with.
He is the only individual who had received a telephone call stating that he had talked with Doe Roberts, and now he was meeting with somebody to pick up money, but we did not have enough evidence at that time to go forward with an arrest.
They did, however, increase their focus on Lord. To look for a financial motive to the kidnapping, the FBI subpoenaed Lord's bank records.
Yes, sir.
We went through records trying to determine if he had loans out, what his financial holdings were, and it became apparent that Charles Lord owed a lot of money to several banks in town, substantial amounts of money, and that he was unable to meet the payments and that he had filed for bankruptcy.
That circumstantial evidence allowed investigators to secure a search warrant for Lord's house. In late June 1993, they served the warrant, which allowed them to look for and seize any financial documents. Some of the files they recovered revealed Lord's criminal past.
He had embezzled over $150,000 from the Memphis depot, where he had retired several years prior, and he had embezzled approximately $70,000 from the church there in Eads, where he was attending.
As treasurer of the church, Lord had access to the parish bank accounts and cash donations. Despite the find, investigators still had no direct evidence of the abduction.
We had nothing that we could use to charge him with the kidnapping and the murder of Doe Roberts. It was important to obtain a confession from Charles Lord because we had no body.
Good, maybe this will help us out a little bit.
One agent working the case was trained in criminal profiling.
He wants more attention.
Analyzing Lord's actions, he offered a behavioral profile to help get the confession.
We have here, we got all these files. Is he gonna repeat his...
He suggested Lord was a manipulative, pathological liar who believed he was untouchable.
It's gonna help us out, but I don't know if it's gonna...
The agent felt that overwhelming the suspect's ego was the only way to beat him.
What you guys need to do is let
The plan was to bring Lord in for an interview and let him see what he would take to be evidence of a massive investigation against him for months.
push into his confessing.
Agents created numerous evidence boxes, hoping to trump Lord's belief he was above the investigation. Then, on August 25, 1993, at the FBI's Memphis field office, investigators met with Lord and his attorney.
I got some questions about, do you know anything about Mrs. Doe Roberts?
As Charles Lord sat in that room during the interview, I was watching him look at these boxes, realizing that he had been under surveillance for a lot longer than he had anticipated, and he became very nervous.
The FBI's tactics appeared to be working. Lord eventually admitted to making some of the ransom calls. He said he did it to keep the investigation alive for Doe's sake, but denied any involvement in her abduction. Sensing that he was ready to crack, the investigators offered him a deal.
Charles Lord was told by our office, as well as the Shelby County inspector, that if he would take a polygraph and pass a polygraph, we would not look at him any further for the Doe Roberts kidnapping. However, if he failed the polygraph, his attorney and Charles Lord agreed to a further interrogation in reference to the kidnapping.
He agreed. After asking control questions to gauge Lord's truthful response levels, the polygraph examiner asked about Doe, including whether Lord was involved in her abduction.
Did you harm Doe Roberts?
In the end, the examiner believed the polygraph results showed Lord being deceptive. Though the results could not be used in court, they meant authorities could continue questioning the suspect. With Lord's attorney present in the interrogation room, FBI agents and inspectors from the Shelby County Sheriff's Department pressed the suspect, returning again and again to the polygraph results.
I've got every piece of evidence I need, what I need you to do.
At first, he continued to deny involvement, but after several hours, the interview tactics wore him down. Lord said he was ready to tell them what happened. He said he needed cash to pay back his loans and cover the money he stole from the church, and decided to kidnap Doe for ransom. On August 6, 1992, he called the Roberts, posing as a property buyer named Sam Wagner, and arranged to meet Alan. The next day, when he knew Alan was waiting at the development property, he drove by their house. Doe was bringing in the mail.
Doe, there's been an accident.
He knew she would trust him.
Alan's been involved in an accident. Yeah, get in the car and I'll take you to him.
What happened? Do you know? Is he all right?
Lord told investigators he planned to release Doe after he got the ransom, but she suffered a fatal heart attack in his car. He said he panicked and dumped her body and her purse, but he would not say where.
Would you be willing to take us to where she is?
The investigators believed he was lying at least about planning to release Doe, and perhaps about other details.
You did what you were supposed to do. Now it's
Special Agent Joanne Overall knew they had to find the body to check his story. They offered a deal.
Charles Lord agreed to tell us where Doe Roberts' body was after he had confessed to the kidnapping in exchange for Shelby County not pursuing the death penalty.
Lord claimed he dumped her in the Wolf River, a slow-moving river that runs 90 miles across the southwest corner of the state. The Wolf River empties into the Mississippi at Memphis. Lord said he dumped the remains from a bridge in Fayette County, 13 miles from the Roberts' home. Divers would begin 50 yards upriver, searching for the body and purse. Lieutenant John Yancey of the Shelby County Sheriff's Department led the dive in the murky river.
We had 21 divers involved total. The visibility in the river was zero. It was total black water.
And in the dark water, several species of venomous snakes. Adding to the challenge was the fact that the crime took place a year earlier. Any remains would be scattered and difficult to find. FBI agents and sheriff's deputies helped the divers by stretching a rope across the river's width. Divers held onto the rope and moved across its length, searching the river bottom by hand.
Normally you do an arm span, arm over arm for a search for a body because it's large. But we were looking for contents of the purse at the time to try to make sure that this was actually the scene. So we had to bring it down to where we were, instead of doing the large arm spans, we were having to do what I call this the hand grab. And that's where you just get the dirt with your hand. And that way you're able to find everything on the bottom.
Once the divers reached the other bank, the team would move the rope a foot downriver and start over. Anytime a diver found something, he signaled, and additional divers came in to mark and extract the item.
We found a safe that had been taken in a robbery of a cleaner's, and the money had fallen out of the safe, and we found the pennies on the bottom and the dollar bills, but we found no contents of any of her purse. So I feel like if we'd have found pennies on the bottom, we would have found her makeup or a wallet or IDs or anything times back to her.
In 110-degree heat, the team continued their search of every square inch.
On my second day, I was on the bridge, and an elderly lady walked up to me and said, "I want you to do me a favor." And I said, "I'll try to if I can." She said, "I want you to find us something today so we can get this over with, so we can go ahead and bury Doe and get this case over with."
After 3 full days, they had searched a half-mile of the river. They believed the body would not have gone farther than that in the lowland waters.
I went to my boss, my chief, and I told him, I said, based on my experience and what we have done, she's not in here. But if you want us to continue the search, we'll search till it runs into Mississippi, ever how you want to do it. But I can tell you right now, she's not here.
Investigators were convinced Lord had lied to them, unnecessarily placing the dive team in danger. Special Agent Overall confronted Lord.
We took Charles Lord out to the site and explained to him that these divers were putting their lives in jeopardy and we needed to find the body, and it didn't appear that the body was there.
The suspect had run out of lies. Now he was ready to tell investigators what really happened to Doe Roberts. After a 3-day search of Tennessee's Wolf River, dive leader Lieutenant John Yancey believed the remains of kidnapping victim Doe Roberts were not in the river.
We had searched everywhere possible, and just over the years of experience, I would have found something by now, either some bones, some makeup, or something. I said, based on my experience, she's not in here. There the divers are. She's not there.
Investigators confronted suspect Charles Lord,
The deal's gonna come off the table.
realizing they would not give up until they got the truth. Lord admitted Doe had not died of a heart attack in his car.
They've searched the water.
He said he took her to his house and tied her up in a room above the garage. He could never let his neighbor go, now. He tried to kill her with sleeping pills. When that didn't work, he smothered her with a pillow. Lord said he buried her in his backyard compost heap. On top of the body, he placed a layer of lime, then concrete, hoping they would hasten decomposition. They needed to determine if Lord was telling the truth this time, to retrieve evidence and give Doe's family the closure of knowing what happened.
Stand by it.
The sheriff's department called in forensic anthropologists from the University of Tennessee. After removing layers of leaves and compost, they began the dig. Shelby County Sheriff's Lieutenant Ronald Goodwin supervised the meticulous excavation.
It's just using brushes and little trowels, much like uncovering artifacts. And it's one spoonful at a time to make sure that you don't miss any evidence and make sure you don't do anything to harm what evidence may be with the body.
After 2 hours, they pierced a shell of concrete and lime. In the space underneath, a body.
Well, the first thing that we came to was the hand. The rest of the body was laying flat in the grave site on its back, face up.
It took 17 hours to completely exhume the remains, and what investigators found surprised them.
The skin was intact. The body was in such good condition, I felt like many scientific tests that we could run might reveal. It's a poisoning, cause of death, sexual attack, or whatever. It appeared that the actions that Mr. Lord had taken, such as the lime and so forth on top of the body, had worked in reverse, and it had preserved the body for us.
The most chilling detail was the position of the 65-year-old woman's hand.
The only thing that was out of normal position was the hand, which was up in front of her face in a defensive position with the fingers spread.
It appeared to investigators she might not have been dead when she was buried.
Maybe she was still alive. Maybe she was pushing up with her hand.
Over a year after Doe Roberts disappeared, the FBI and Alan Roberts had their evidence. On October 19, 1993, Charles Lord pled guilty to first-degree murder and kidnapping. He was sentenced to life plus 25 years. Doe's husband, Alan, had endured being a suspect for months. Now, with the truth out, he could finally lay Doe to rest. But one challenge remains for Alan Roberts.
It's an uneven closure. I'm trying to forget about Charles Lord, and I'm praying that God will let me forgive him. I'm praying that Doe is in God's hands right now.
Mr. and Mrs. Roberts enjoyed 43 years of marriage before they were torn apart. He has faith that one day he will see her again. On the glittering streets of Las Vegas, ruthless gunmen overpower defenseless victims and haul away a motherlode of cash. Following a trail from exotic dance clubs to the tranquil suburbs, authorities finally put down the reckless robbers. But a daring jailbreak leads the FBI to a violent showdown with a man so desperate he'll risk his own family to get what he wants.
Las Vegas, a gang of robbers target an ATM repository and hit the jackpot. They take over $1 million in cash, the largest heist in Las Vegas history. I'm Jim Kallstrom, former head of the FBI's New York office. The robbery was well planned and precisely executed. The FBI and local police struggled to identify and track a desperate criminal whose tendency for violence turned a robbery into a case of murder.
Las Vegas, a gambler's paradise, where even criminals sometimes try their luck. On the night of December 21st, 1998, a Las Vegas couple and their 18-year-old sister-in-law prepare to go to work. The family owns a janitorial service that cleans commercial buildings. Suddenly, two masked gunmen rush up and force them inside their own van. For the cleaning crew, an ordinary workday has just become a night of terror. The gunmen blindfold and tie up their three captives.
Shut her up! What are you looking at? Sit still. Sit still. Don't move.
They can hear the gunman talking to a female accomplice on a radio.
Let's go. Car 2, are you in position?
The gunmen seem to know the janitor's routine. They drive around until 11 p.m., the time they are scheduled to begin work at the Bank of America building. The gunmen even park where the janitors routinely park their van.
Let's go. Your feet down. Let's go, girl. Get out of here. Next.
The building is Bank of America's central ATM repository in Las Vegas.
Let's go.
Cash from 1,200 automated teller machines, often totaling more than $1 million, is delivered there each night. The gunmen force the janitors to use their key card and access code to unlock the door. This bypasses the bank's alarm system.
Get in there. Get in there. Let's take it. Get over there. Come on. Sit right there. Sit down. Look, turn around. Turn around.
The gunmen release the couple and order them to clean the building as they normally would.
Turn around. Look.
They keep the wife's sister hostage to ensure the couple complies with their orders.
She is dead. You hear me? She's dead. Act like you're cleaning. Get out! Now! Get out.
At 11:30 p.m., an armored car arrives to pick up the night's cash deposit. Following a standard security protocol, the two guards first call the bank security company to ask if there have been any unauthorized entries.
We're checking out the parking lot. The only thing.
The alarm company reports that the only people inside are the janitors. The only vehicle the guards see in the parking lot is the janitor's van. Inside, everything seems completely normal. The janitors are too terrified to say anything. The life of an 18-year-old girl is at stake. The guards open the vault containing $1,088,000. Shrink-wrapped and ready for pickup. Suddenly,
Get down! Get down! Get on the floor! Get your hands up!
as the gunmen disarm the guards,
Grandpa, stay down.
one of them accidentally discharges his weapon. The bullet ricochets off the floor and hits one guard in the chest.
Come on, let's go!
What happened?
Oh.
Been shot. Hang on.
One of the guards calls for an ambulance.
12. My partner's down. He's been shot. I need an ambulance quick, please. Please.
FBI Special Agent Henry Schlumpf arrives at the scene. He heads the investigation.
Everybody was very scared. And, it took a little while to calm everybody down and to get a story as to what exactly happened. And the descriptions that we got, because the subjects were masked, were very general in nature. We were looking for 2 males who were either white, black, or Hispanic, 6 foot, 6'3", and about 200 pounds. That was basically all the description that we had.
With little to go on, every detail is important.
The janitors told us that when the subjects first entered the bank, they were a little taken aback at the number of video cameras that were in the bank. That indicated to us that they had not been inside before.
This suggests that the robbery may not have been an inside job. Agents interview a truck driver who witnessed the robbers leaving the depository.
Turned over to here, I saw 2 guys just...
The truck driver was making a late-night delivery to a nearby store.
He saw 2 men run out of the depository and throw some bags in the back of a white Chevy S10 pickup truck.
And they just took off in that direction.
Authorities begin searching for the getaway truck.
I put out the announcement for all responding units to look for a white Chevy S10 pickup truck. It wasn't very long after that the vehicle was found about a quarter of a mile from the depository and just parked on a residential street.
Investigators run the truck's plates. Ironically, the truck is a police maintenance vehicle that was stolen from a Las Vegas Metro Police lot 1 week earlier. Investigators begin questioning neighbors, including a woman whose home is closest to where the truck is parked.
She hadn't seen anybody get out of the pickup truck, but earlier in the evening, there had been another truck parked in the same place. And she described that as a white GMC dually, which is a pickup truck with 4 wheels on the back axle.
Agents believe the woman saw the robbers switch vehicles, a common MO for bank robbers. They issue an APB for the white GMC truck. Hours later, they receive the welcome news that the wounded guard has undergone surgery and will survive. The next day, the bank determines that a total of $1,088,000 has been stolen. To date, it is the largest bank robbery in Las Vegas history. Although FBI agents believe this was not an inside job, they cover all their bases by interviewing the armored car guards and all bank employees.
We didn't have a lot to go on. We ended up interviewing everybody who worked at the branch and everybody who worked at the armored car company and polygraphing some of them.
Although agents do not find any new information, they do rule out the employees as suspects.
Thank you.
The subjects who committed the robbery could have found out everything they needed to find out by following the armored truck around and following the guards around. And we surmised early on that that's probably exactly what they did.
With the investigation running out of leads, executives from Bank of America and the Armored Car Company decide to offer a reward for information leading to the arrest and conviction of the robbers. Agent Schlumpf advises them on how large the reward should be.
And I said $50,000, which was quite a lot for a bank robbery, but we were going to need to generate some public interest in this case.
Agents ask local authorities for their cooperation.
We notified the airport that we were looking for someone carrying large amounts of money. We notified all the jails to advise us if anyone tried to bail someone out with large amounts of cash.
A week after the $1 million robbery, the FBI receives a call from security at Las Vegas's McCarran Airport.
They got a telephone response from someone asking if large amounts of currency would set off the metal detectors. And they took the number down on caller ID and gave it to us.
Investigators use a reverse telephone directory to find the caller's address. Agents set up surveillance on that address, a home in the suburbs of Las Vegas.
There were people going in and out of the house about every half hour. Someone would arrive and someone else would leave. But it's curious, and I'd kind of like to know what's going on.
After several hours, agents decide to interview the people in the house.
Hello, how are you? I'm Investigator Davis from the Las Vegas Police Department. This is Special Agent Reed.
It was just a piano teacher who was giving half-hour lessons. And she was going to be going to Utah with about $3,000, and so she had called McCarran Airport to find out if that would set off the detectors.
The lead is a dead end. Agents are back where they started. But later that day, a woman responding to the reward poster calls the Las Vegas Metro Police. She claims to have key information about the bank robbery.
So tell me about this stripper friend of yours.
Her name's Jennifer.
The tipster tells agents about a dancer she knows who works at a local strip club.
Oh, Fuzzy Bottom. You know, over on Tampa.
Stripper.
Her name is Jennifer Arden. She says Jennifer has been spending a lot of cash lately.
He was able to give us a telephone number. We traced that number to a rented trailer.
The FBI sets up surveillance on the trailer. Agents watch for any clue to the identity of the two gunmen or the location of the stolen $1 million. In a matter of minutes, a white GMC truck pulls into the driveway. It's the same make and model the robbers used as their getaway vehicle. Agents run the license plates. According to the Department of Motor Vehicles, the truck is registered in Las Vegas to Timothy Blackburn. The driver enters the house and leaves minutes later. The surveillance team immediately notifies Agent Schlumpf.
The sighting of the GMC pickup gave us enough probable cause to get a warrant for the trailer.
Moments later, a SWAT team surrounds the trailer.
To serve the warrant, we brought a lot of people with us because we knew we were looking for armed and dangerous subjects. They had already shot one person. We knocked on the door of the trailer and nobody answered, so we kicked the door open and served the search warrant.
The SWAT team finds one man in the trailer. He identifies himself as Riley Bates. He reveals that Jennifer is his girlfriend. One team of agents begins searching the trailer for evidence, while another heads to the strip club to question Jennifer.
FBI, I'd like to ask you a few questions, please.
About what?
You've been spending an awful lot of money.
The exotic dancer told us that the money was her money that she had made over the past 4 years dancing, and that she didn't know anything about a robbery or anything else.
Back at the trailer, agents continue to search for clues. In the bedroom, they find a heavy-duty combination safe. It looks brand new.
The trailer was filled with trash, and it was not the kind of place where you would expect anybody with any money to be living. And yet here they had this brand new safe they had bought.
What's the combination?
Riley claims the safe belongs to his girlfriend, and only she knows how to open it.
We'll find out.
Agent Durham, may I help you? Jennifer. What's the number to the combination of the safe and
The
your cell?
agent asks Jennifer for the combination,
It's not my safe, it's my boyfriend's.
but
It's not
she
my
says
safe.
Riley
How would I
has
know
it.
the combination?
Did you hear that? She said she doesn't know what the combination to the safe is. The safe belongs to her boyfriend.
So we go back to
He says
Riley
it's
Bates
herself.
and tell him that his girlfriend said he had the combination, so then he told us the combination.
Yep, that's it.
Inside the safe, the FBI finds $50,000 in cash and bags of marijuana.
Selling pot.
Riley insists that he made the money by selling marijuana and claims he knows nothing about the robbery. Agents strongly suspect he is lying. But with over $1 million missing, where is the rest of the money? Las Vegas, December 1998. A team of violent bank robbers shoot an armored car guard and flee with more than $1 million. A tip leads the FBI to a rented trailer and a brand new safe containing $50,000.
Bunch of cash in here.
Jennifer Arden, an exotic dancer, claims she earned the money dancing. Her boyfriend, Riley Bates, says he made the money selling marijuana. Now agents must find the rest of the money. Over $1 million in cash. The FBI calls in one of their top interviewers, Special Agent Brett Shields, to try to get the truth from Riley.
Where's that money from? He's getting a lot of trouble here.
We tried to remove him from his comfort zone and took him out to my car where he's a little bit more on edge rather than at the comfort of his own home.
Selling pot. Yeah. You're gonna get in a lot of trouble here.
Yeah, Riley Bates was a shifty little guy. He knew he was in a tough position because we'd found the money in the trailer.
He tried to maintain that it was profits from the marijuana that was found in the safe. It wasn't believable that he was that successful and he's still living in a single wide trailer.
You're gonna be in a lot of trouble here, you know that? I don't know what you're talking about.
We had gotten convinced that we can help him out on the marijuana charges and he doesn't want to get tied up into the $1 million bank robbery.
He said, I didn't commit any robbery. So now Agent Shields and I know, we're probably about 2 questions away from finding out who did. So we said, okay, Riley, you didn't commit the robbery, but I believe you know who did commit the robbery. And he said, my brother Robert and his friend Tim.
It's my brother and his friend Tim. Really? Yeah. Well, where is Tim right now? I don't know where they are right now.
Riley claims that he doesn't know where his brother Robert is.
Where are they? But I don't know where they are.
But inside the trailer, agents find gaming chips and receipts from the Luxor, a casino on the Las Vegas Strip.
So we sent a couple agents to the Luxor, and they contacted management, and sure enough, Robert Bates was staying there.
The hotel's head of security tells agents that Robert Bates has been spending heavily, paying for everything in
That's
cash.
located where, sir?
That's in the southeast town. You see the types of items that they're purchasing.
Judging from his guest portfolio at the Luxor, Robert Bates had been just partying constantly since the night of the robbery.
The 2 agents stake out Bates's hotel room until he returns.
He was on some kind of drugs. There's no point in trying to interview someone if they're stoned on whatever he was on.
Bring your hand back, Mike.
Inside Bates's hotel room, agents find drugs, a gun, and $5,000 in cash. With nearly $1 million still missing, agents now concentrate on the second suspect named by Riley Bates, his brother's friend, Tim Blackburn.
We set up surveillance on Timothy Blackburn's house. So we had police and FBI agents surrounding the house.
They decide to approach Blackburn, but proceed cautiously. He's been investigated for armed robbery in the past and is considered highly dangerous.
Tim Blackburn was about 26 years old, 6'3", 230 pounds. He was a martial arts expert, and he liked fighting, and he liked guns. He was an accomplished marksman.
The FBI's criminal apprehension team moves into position. Special Agent Castle Nishimoto is a member of this elite tactical unit.
My job was to watch the streets. I knew he was armed, but I wasn't particularly scared at that point because I felt confident that I would be able to spot him and from where I was watching.
The agents were just approaching the house to make contact with the people inside when a car comes driving down the road.
The SUV suddenly accelerates towards the agents. The driver loses control.
And the vehicle stops, and a man jumps out and runs away. We assumed it was Blackburn who had run out of the car.
He was jumping the fence, the walls in the back of the house and so forth, and trying to get away. And so from that point on, we began to search the area.
The driver of the vehicle is Blackburn's sister-in-law. Authorities take her into custody. The FBI and Las Vegas police launch a house-to-house search for Blackburn. Two blocks away, a canine unit picks up the fugitive's scent.
Come out with your hands up! All right, you got me. Come on out! You got me. Rotate your hands! Don't make me sit the dog. Come on!
Blackburn was found by a canine unit hiding under a deck in someone's backyard. He had a mask and he had an ankle holster.
Fortunately for the canine officer, the holster was empty.
There's nothing in it, man.
Blackburn had lost his gun jumping over fences.
Man, it's behind you. Go back.
Sorry, we got him. We'll take him inside for questioning.
I don't have him. We're gonna find him.
Investigators search the suspect's home while agents question Tim Blackburn and his wife, Sophia.
Because I know that you know what's going on. I know that you know where the money is. Can you tell us where the money is now, where it's been put?
They offer Blackburn a reduced sentence if he will admit to the robbery.
I don't have any money. If you don't see it, it's not here. I know, man.
He refuses. Investigators continue to search the house.
An evidence response search is very methodical. It's not just everybody running around to where they think something might be hidden. Everything is photographed first, and then the search progresses room by room, and then the outside is usually done at the end. They find some flex cuffs, like were the same type that the janitors had been bound with, and they found some walkie-talkies and some other surveillance equipment.
I got something here.
Early that morning, in Blackburn's backyard, they find several duffel bags inside the doghouse.
I just couldn't believe that he put the money in the doghouse. And then on second thought, I thought, well, maybe that might not be a bad place to put the money, since nobody looks there. It's just an innocuous place.
Investigators recover more than $900,000, 90% of the stolen money.
It took about 10 hours to count it. So by 4 o'clock that afternoon, we knew we had the money from the Bank of America robbery.
The U.S. District Court charges Tim Blackburn and Robert Bates with bank robbery, kidnapping, carjacking, and using a firearm in the commission of a violent crime. They are held at the North Las Vegas Detention Center. But the FBI's work is unfinished. They believe that Blackburn and Bates were not working alone.
We knew that there was probably someone else involved in the robbery, that it was too much logistically for only two people to do.
You know, your husband was...
Agents suspect Sophia Blackburn might be involved because her story does not seem credible.
I was at the house several times to talk to Sophia Blackburn. Sophia claimed to have no knowledge of the robbery, and in fact, she provided an alibi for Tim Blackburn on the night of the robbery. She said she was with him the whole night. She couldn't account for the money that they found or the other items that were in the house. She was worried because her husband was in jail and she had 2 young daughters to raise herself. So she was claimed to be cooperative, but she would have these stories that were in no way even close to plausible. But that's what she was going to stick with. And, there was not going to be really any way to talk her out of them. There was no way that she was ever going to give us any information that would implicate Tim Blackburn.
On August 11th, 1999, 7 months after the $1 million robbery, Sophia visits her husband in jail.
You can't tell him where I am.
She secretly uses a tiny tool on her keychain to loosen the screws securing the divider window.
It's good, so my babies are doing all right.
Babies are great.
As the visiting room guard leaves to escort a prisoner, Blackburn removes the bulletproof glass.
Tim Blackburn climbed through the window and dived into the sally port. The one door closed and the second door opened before anybody realized what he had done. As soon as the second door opened, he was just climbing over everybody in the sally port and he ran outside.
Sophia retrieves a gun she had hidden earlier and tosses it to Blackburn.
All the alarms are going off and guards outside knew that there was a jailbreak.
As the Blackburns try to get away, they face startled guards in a violent shootout. August 11th, 1999. Timothy Blackburn, accused of the biggest bank robbery in Las Vegas history, breaks out of jail with the help of his wife, Sophia. FBI Special Agent Henry Schlumpf.
They tried to arrest Blackburn, but he shoots at them. This pickup truck that's sitting in the lot was going to be his escape vehicle. But the guards are returning fire.
Blackburn is forced to abandon the truck. Suddenly, his wife Sophia roars up in an Isuzu rodeo. In a matter of seconds, they are out of range.
It was hard to believe that Blackburn had actually escaped from the jail because although a lot of people want to escape from the jail and many attempted, very few actually get away. But it just pointed out again how unpredictable Blackburn was.
Looking for leads, FBI agents Henry Schlumpf and Brett Shields tracked down the suspect's relatives.
Blackburn was going to have to go someplace to get some help.
Agents check out an apartment building where Blackburn's sister-in-law lives. Parked out front, they find the same Isuzu rodeo used in the jailbreak. They run the plates and discover it belongs to Blackburn's wife, Sophia.
We see the truck in the parking lot. So now our heart's racing just a little bit more. Adrenaline's pumping. Since he was in federal custody, it falls under the U.S. Marshal's jurisdiction as well. So I called some Marshal friends of mine. We're sitting on this truck, not knowing if he's going to come back out to this truck, and we're going to have a confrontation right there before the marshals get there.
After a few tense moments, U.S. Marshals arrive to help FBI agents raid the apartment.
Step outside. Can we go inside and search your premises?
But Blackburn isn't there.
Car may have been used in the commission of a crime.
Agents ask the fugitive's sister-in-law where Tim Blackburn is. She says she doesn't know.
This could be extremely
They ask why
serious.
Sophia's Isuzu is there and not her own car, which authorities know is a Nissan Pathfinder.
It's going to be as bad for you as him.
She claims it's in the shop, but her story does not check out. Agents suspect Blackburn is on the run with her Pathfinder.
Can you tell us where it is?
No, I have no idea where it's at.
For the next week, The FBI searches for Blackburn, his wife, and their 2 little girls. They come up empty. Then, 9 days after the jailbreak, a Las Vegas police helicopter spots a Nissan Pathfinder parked in the desert. A family of 4 is nearby. The FBI and Las Vegas police arrive in force.
Now we have no shot.
Special Agent Castle Nishimoto leads the FBI SWAT team.
We were located on a ridge line quite a bit above them, and there was a valley between us.
We can see some people about half a mile away, too far away to identify them.
If law enforcement tries to move any closer, they will have to move through an unprotected open space.
We had to keep our distance from these people because if it was Blackburn, he is a marksman.
Nevertheless, Agent Schlumpf daringly volunteers to drive down for a closer look.
It did take some courage because the only coverage he had would have been the snipers. And they had at least 300 or 400 yards shot, as I recall.
As Agent Schlumpf gets nearer, he can finally make out faces.
I could recognize that it wasn't Blackburn. It wasn't anybody who we were looking for.
Authorities have hit another dead end. But Agent Schlumpf also realizes that authorities cannot continue to respond on such a massive scale.
There must have been 100 vehicles in this valley. All the SWAT vehicles and evidence response team vehicles and police cruisers. And I'm thinking to myself, you know, we can't be doing this every time someone says Tim Blackburn. I mean, nobody's got the resources and we're going to burn ourselves out.
The next night, law enforcement pursues the dangerous fugitive with every available resource.
We had about 40 agents, police, marshals, Henderson Police Department, detention center people. We got everybody together, and we divided up into teams, and what we were going to do was interview every one of Blackburn's associates, search every house, find every vehicle that he could possibly have access to.
U.S. Marshals tell the FBI they have spotted the fugitive.
We arrive right as they're taking down what they believe is Tim Blackburn.
I could tell right away it wasn't Tim Blackburn, it was his brother. His brother is a younger, slightly smaller version of Tim Blackburn, very similar in appearance. As we're IDing him, what we notice is that his driver's license was brand new. He had just gotten it the day before. So we asked him, well, what happened to your old license?
On the hood.
Blackburn's brother claims he lost his license. But agents suspect he gave it to the fugitive to use as a fake ID. In the car, agents find a note from Tim Blackburn. In it, he asks his brother to get him some money. A man who once had $1 million in his possession now needs a loan to survive.
We decided to arrest him for aiding and abetting a fugitive. So that's what we did. We arrested Tim Blackburn's brother.
Authorities also arrest Blackburn's sister-in-law for lying to federal authorities when she said her Nissan Pathfinder was in the shop. With 2 of his family members in custody, agents develop an ingenious plan to lure Tim Blackburn into the open. In Las Vegas, a violent bank robber breaks out of jail with the help of his wife. After 3 days of eluding authorities, agents decide to turn up the heat on the dangerous fugitive.
One of the people we wanted to talk to that night was a close friend of Blackburn's who worked as a bouncer at a local gentleman's club. Most people who knew Blackburn either liked him or were afraid of him. And neither opinion was really conducive to providing information to us. His friend was really no exception. He didn't want to tell us anything, but eventually what he told us was that Tim Blackburn had called him at the time he was escaping. Blackburn had called up and said, I'm out, I'm out. And this friend could hear the sirens and stuff in the background.
You're the last guy that we know of.
So I told this friend, you are the last person who Tim Blackburn talked to that we know about. And I think he's going to call you again. And when he does, we want you to tell him that we've arrested his brother and that the people who have assisted him are going to have to pay for what they did to help him. This putting pressure on Blackburn was an effort to try to get him to realize he couldn't really escape, to get him to turn himself in wherever he was at. The next morning, this friend called me up and told me that, sure enough, Tim Blackburn had called him again and that he had told him that I'd arrested his brother and his sister-in-law. And, I asked him what did Blackburn say, and he just said he was mad.
2.5 weeks after the jailbreak, FBI agent Henry Schlumpf learns that Blackburn may have returned to Las Vegas.
I got a phone call from a Las Vegas SWAT officer. He had just met someone who gave him some information regarding Blackburn's whereabouts in Las Vegas, which to my mind was doubtful. I doubted Blackburn was in Las Vegas. But I asked the officer to ask this fella if he knew the names of Blackburn's daughters. And sure enough, this informant did know the names, so at least we knew he did know Blackburn.
The informant claims Blackburn is staying at a motel that caters to long-term guests. Agent Schlumpf and 2 Las Vegas SWAT officers rush to the location.
You seen these two before?
The manager says he's never seen the Blackburns before and they are not registered at the motel.
Okay, that's your register. I'm gonna get that. You have a key?
Still, Agent Schlumpf decides to rent a room so he can surveil the facility.
Okay. All right.
SWAT officers call in the license plates of every vehicle in the parking lot. None of them are reported as either stolen or owned by any of Blackburn's relatives. The motel tip is beginning to look like another false lead. The FBI does not give up. They begin checking every apartment.
So what we decided to do was to perform a ruse. We would have a complex security guard just start knocking on doors and notifying the residents of noise complaints. I'm there watching, and the door opens, and Sophia Blackburn comes out to talk to the guard. I couldn't believe it. There she was. She looked happy and smiling and well-rested, better than I'd ever seen her. She did not look like she'd been on the run for 17 days.
Suspecting that Blackburn is hiding in the apartment, Agent Schlumpf calls for immediate backup. The criminal apprehension team in Las Vegas SWAT arrive within minutes.
SWAT responded right away. More agents came, and a lot of patrol units, marshals came. And what we did was we started evacuating the complex. Every apartment was evacuated except, of course, for the one where we thought Blackburn might be. And then we did what we do in 99% of our fugitive cases. Our criminal apprehension team placed a call into the apartment.
I need to talk to Timothy Blackburn.
What they do is they tell the person in there, look, we know you're there, you're surrounded, there's no way that you can get out, so come on out.
Look, we just want to find a nice, peaceful way to end this whole thing.
So I'm waiting for Blackburn to come out, and I'm deciding, where are we going to take him? Back to the jail he escaped from or to a different facility? And that was my mindset. If he was in there, he was going to come out. But he doesn't.
Agent Slump, he wants to talk to you.
apprehension team person was on the phone, and she says he wants to talk to you.
Hello, Tim.
And sure enough, it was Tim Blackburn. And my job was just to keep him talking on the phone, because as long as he's talking on the phone, he's not shooting anybody. When I first started talking with Blackburn, I was kind of commiserating with him, telling him, it must have been hard being on the run for the last 3 weeks.
Hey, I took the kids to San Diego. Have you ever been
So
to San
here he
Diego?
was, maybe 10 minutes from Mexico, and he didn't go there. He came back to Las Vegas.
Agent Schlumpf cannot understand why Blackburn has returned, but is even more concerned that his children may be with him.
Why don't we just talk about...
Then his worst fears are realized. He hears the 2 little girls laughing in the background.
There's children inside the room. Repeat, there's children inside the room.
The SWAT team set up outside the apartment, and they were there to initiate a hostage rescue if Blackburn turned violent and started hurting any of the people in the apartment, Sophia and their 2 little girls. He says, Henry, I don't suppose you can just let us go. And I told him, I can't do that.
I'm not going back to jail, man. I'm not going back to jail. Look, I don't want my kids to visit me in jail.
Tim was set on not going back to jail. He said he just wasn't going to go back. And, after shooting a guard, there's no way any of that is going to go away.
Schlumpf worries that Blackburn may be suicidal.
Hey, Tim, it's time to come in, buddy.
Authorities now face a dangerous scenario. A hostage barricade situation involving an armed man, his wife, and 2 small children.
Look, I'm not going back, man. That's just it. I'm not going back to jail. I'm not going back.
The FBI and police SWAT teams surround a motel just off the Strip in Las Vegas. A violent bank robber has barricaded himself inside one of the apartments.
I'm not going back, man.
Tim Blackburn is armed and emotional. Inside the room with him are his wife, Sophia, and his 2 daughters.
Oh, you came back.
FBI agent Henry Schlumpf tries to talk the desperate man into surrendering.
Come on out.
Although negotiators are present, Blackburn refuses to talk with anyone but Agent Schlumpf, who months earlier had arrested him for bank robbery.
I'm not going back to jail, man. I don't want my kids to visit me in jail.
Agent Schlumpf pleads with both Blackburn and Sophia to let the children leave the apartment.
Slow it all down.
Sometimes I talked with Sophia and sometimes with Blackburn. It seemed like maybe we were getting a little farther ahead talking with Sophia, but then when we take a break and she talked to Blackburn, we kind of have to start over again. He had a lot of influence with her, because he's her husband. She was afraid that if she were to leave with the children, that Blackburn would kill himself. And, she certainly didn't want that to happen. We'd take breaks, and then I'd call in again. There were highs and lows. Sometimes it seemed like we were making progress. Other times, we took a couple of steps backward.
So, Henry, what's the best place to shoot myself in the head, huh?
He asked me what I thought would be the best place for him to shoot himself. And I told him that we had a lot of other things that we could talk about and try to work out before it came to that.
How are the kids doing?
Blackburn says he put his daughters in the bathtub to protect them.
For their own protection.
But the SWAT commander is concerned. Confining them could also be the prelude to a murder-suicide pact. The SWAT team prepares to blow the door in case they need to rescue Sophia and the children.
the SWAT team placed a explosive charge on the door, an entry charge, so to be able to breach the door very quickly if they needed to.
After 4 long hours of negotiation,
they had to go clear to the back, into the bathroom, to try and rescue the children. And in this case, seconds, fractions of seconds count.
They got there just in time to see Blackburn falling down from a self-inflicted gunshot wound.
they find Sophia dead. Both the children have been shot in the head and are barely alive.
I saw them running very quickly to try to save the children.
The SWAT team got them to the paramedics, but they died in their arms.
I felt quite saddened that my fellow SWAT officers tried their best and yet wasn't able to save the children. Our mission was to save lives, and we were not able to accomplish that.
It was just devastating. It was like the worst possible outcome.
The coroner later determines that the shots that killed Blackburn, Sophia, and their two little girls were all fired by Blackburn himself. A few months later, in federal court in Las Vegas, Riley Bates and his girlfriend plead guilty to possessing stolen money. Because of their cooperation, they are sentenced to only a year. Blackburn's sister-in-law is sentenced to 1 year for lying to federal agents and impeding their investigation. Robert Bates pleads guilty to bank robbery and is sentenced to 24 years in prison. Today, Agent Henry Schlumpf has made his own peace with the tragic events caused by Tim Blackburn.
He's ultimately responsible for everything that happened. He came back to Las Vegas to do exactly what he did. He came back to die. I don't think he was gonna ever come out of that apartment or let anybody else come out of it either.
Las Vegas law enforcement will never forget the deaths of two innocent children. For them, the Blackburn case is all about lost hope and the tragedy of a desperate agenda.